everybody. Welcome to InPsightRadio. I'm your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. Happy week! Happy week! Okay, so we are rolling here into November, and I am so excited to have an awesome guest with me. You've heard her on many different podcasts. She is a good pal. She's one of my besties. She's also my sister-in-law, and we do lots of fun projects together. I'm Italian. I love to work with family, and so we've done Road Angel together. We have done Ascension Tour together, and we do healing work together also. And that's really interesting because I don't talk a lot about my healing work. However, I do quite a bit of it when I'm doing quite a bit of it. I either do it or I don't. But anyway, everybody, she's also an herbalist. She owns Vintage Apothecary here in Bridger, Montana. And she, in her own right, is she's the one with actually the plant background and a huge energy healer. So welcome to the podcast, Melissa Scianna.
Thank you so much. It's so fun to be back here.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
The new studio. What do you think?
I love the new studio and the new equipment. It is top notch.
Isn't it fun?
It's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It took a minute to get a little used to as far as how it works because it's all different. But overall, as I've turned my head to look at something there, but I mean, it's been great, and it's wonderful to get new equipment in here and to have you in here. And it's been so COVID-y and weird, you know, that's been a weird thing.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, we're going to talk today to all of our fellow healers out there about what it's like to do dual healing work. And I want to start off first and foremost, just really asking you, how does your process work as a healer? Now, before I have you answer that, I want everybody to know, Melissa does a lot of varied things, and you are not only an herbalist, yet you run energy through people.
Yes.
And people call it Reiki. However, I've noticed you'll touch people.
Yes.
When you do it.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about not only the type of healing that you do, however, tell people what brought you to this energy healing platform in the first place.
That's such an interesting question. And I think it's also interesting as we get started here to just bring forward that while you and I do a lot of have done quite a bit of healing work together, this is the first time that we've actually sat down and talked about what goes on when we are doing these tandem healings. So it's like, this is all new stuff.
Yeah.
To the two of us. So it's pretty interesting. So gosh, what brought me to doing energy healing? Actually, what brought me to doing energy healing was a million years ago when I had a session with you. And you did Tibetan bowl healing with me. Yeah,
oh my
honestly.
God.
And I was like, wow, the effect of this is staggering. And then at that point, you know, I had always been, I had done some healing just with my kids and, you know, with like family members, but I didn't call it anything. I didn't call it Reiki. It was just like hands-on healing. But that helped me understand the magnitude of energy healing and actually how I could really maybe help people in addition to my family members, you know, and just started wanting to really develop that.
Right.
And so I just did some learning, did some reading, talked to people and began being interested in it. But the funny thing is, you know, we use the word Reiki so much, and I really resisted learning Reiki for the longest time.
Now, when you say you resisted learning Reiki, why?
Well, because I felt like I was having success doing it my way.
Right.
Like it felt very individual what I was doing.
Got it.
And the thought of being taught something that it felt like I was going to have to follow the rules, right?
Oh,
Yeah, and I didn't like that. I
okay.
didn't want to have to change.
Right.
Right. And so finally, I finally did learn Reiki from this amazing person named Jean Guy, and I was so lucky that she was my teacher because she taught me that what I was doing really was Reiki.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
And that it doesn't have to change. What she taught me just augmented what I do.
Oh, that's
And it
good.
actually made me feel a lot more secure in the way I was doing things. Like I was being successful. It made me feel confident.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was a really great experience.
So you ended up feeling like what she was showing you was helping you along in a way that it verified almost in certain ways what you naturally were doing. So am I to understand that you were just naturally pulling this healing aptitude together? Is it something that just came really naturally to you?
Yes, very much so. And then actually since then, the more I practice and the more clients I have, the more it changes and becomes really individualized to the person.
Right.
And the more things like it's different. It's different every time. I learn something new every time.
Every time you do a healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I think is so interesting about this is I have people from all over the world that I am super blessed to talk to that are my clients, right? And they'll call me and they'll be like, okay, Danielle, I need to know what's it going to take for me to be a healer. And I'll look at I'll be shown actually their skill set. I'll be shown the chi in their body. I'll be shown if they've got that empathic healing sense and whatnot. And I'll relay all this back to them. And then it comes back around to, well, how do I do it? Honestly, healers are made like conductive materials. They're made like a copper wire. It's not like the copper is sitting there saying, how do I do a healing? The copper wire just heals. That's it. I mean, it just heals. So I found this with healers as well. We are just built to conduct energy. Now, the interesting thing here is I think everybody's built to conduct energy, don't you?
I do think so. And I think that a lot of it is learning to trust what is already in us.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Right? Yeah. And this just made me think, I laughed when you were talking because I remember having a reading with you once a million years ago, before we were sisters-in-law, before we really were even friends.
Oh my God.
How we met
That's
was
so weird.
that you read for me a few times, and we were sitting there in person and talking about, I was telling you how I wanted to be a healer.
Yeah. Yes. I remember
and
that.
I was like very not confident about the whole thing. And you were like, pretend I'm a client. What would you do? And I was like,
I remember that.
No. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I do remember that. That was funny.
Yeah. So I've grown a lot since then. But it's confidence is a thing.
Well,
and
it is.
Believing in yourself and what you can do is a thing.
That is a very important part of healing. And people don't get that, Melissa. They think that, oh, well, I'm just going to step up and I'm a bad healer if I don't just come in and have all the answers and know everything I need to know. And the fact is, none of us have all these answers, and we're all learning, and it's a big deal. And so what I would tell you is that if you're listening out there and you're like, well, I think I'm a healer, I'd love to do healing work with another person, but I'm not even sure I can do it. You just have to start doing it.
Right. And the more you do it, the easier it's going to be.
And the more you're going to feel more confident, and you're going to feel like you can flow with people. So just remember, as a healer, you're built to be a conductive element. Copper doesn't decide whether or not it conducts. It just does. Okay?
Yes.
And on top of that, it's just doing what it does. So don't worry about if you're listening to this podcast saying, I really want to be a healer, but I don't know what to do. First of all, the copper wire just conducts. So just conduct, first of all. Secondly, if you really have, Melissa, and I think you can attest to this, if you really have that desire to bring healing energies through your body, not out of a weird ego need, not like I'm going to cure cancer and get on the cover of Time magazine, not like that. But if you really have that desire, then you will find that you are a healer, because it's a compulsion to make people feel better. Not like a creepy, codependent compulsion, but it's a compulsion. So how did you get over some of your insecurities? Because I do remember, I'm like, wow, you're a healer, man. Look at this.
Yeah.
And I remember you kind of looked at me sideways out of your eyeballs, like, I don't know about you, lady. I don't know about you, lady. And you gave me stink eye.
Yeah,
but I'm like,
I'm
no,
sure I did.
really, you did. And I was like, no, you are this person. So what would you say to folks listening out there that are pretty sure they want to go into the healing arts? Maybe they've studied Reiki or reflexology or cranial sacral or any number, Tibetan bowl healing, any number of applications. Yet they just aren't sure if it's their thing or if they're well enough to do it, right enough to do it, righteous enough to do it, pure enough to do it. What would you say to those people?
I would say the most important thing is to remember that we call ourselves healers, but we're just a tool. We are just what's bringing the
Are you
energy.
calling me a tool? Sorry, I had to.
Of course. that we are helping people heal themselves is what we're doing. So it's not like we are doing this great majestic thing that all we are doing is helping channel the energy through the people so their bodies can heal themselves.
That's right.
So it's not like this great complicated thing. In fact, we had an experience just recently where we had finished a healing together, and we talk a little bit when the healing's done to each other about maybe some psychic things that we saw or things that happened. And what came up at that time was both of us turned out at the same moment were a little bit unsure perhaps of how we were supposed to direct the energy. And the message that we both got at that time was just for me, it was just lay your hands on her. And yours was similar. Yours was just like, just do what comes naturally and the healing will come. So it's less about, it's so much less, it's so much more intuitive and less intellectual.
Oh, yeah.
Than people think
Yes,
it is.
that's true. That's very true. And not only that, to take it one piece further into the etheric, we're being directed anyway, gang. If you're a healer and you're working on somebody, both of our healing modalities are different. And if you're listening to this and you want to work with someone else who's also a healer, your healing modality is going to be different than theirs. And that's awesome. I mean, you guys are going to be coming in from a totally different angle. Now, I haven't talked about what I do as a healer.
Right.
Because I wanted people to hear your journey on this. I do healing work through sound and through touch. So mostly it's through sound, though. And I take Tibetan bowls and I place them on people and I ring the bowls, and I'll have two bowls I'm ringing at once on people. I create harmonics with those bowls. Actually, I don't create them, you guys. The person who is releasing tension or illness or sickness, that illness comes through the actual 7 different alloys of that Tibetan bowl. And as that illness comes through, it will change the density of the bowl, and the bowl hops into a harmonic. And you've heard that happen.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Yes. So many times. And the more we do it, the more my ear becomes tuned to what your bowls are doing. And it's so subconscious.
It's weird.
It is so weird. Yeah.
And so when I'm doing that and I'm ringing those bowls, a harmonic is an overtone. And the overtone is created by 2 vibrations happening simultaneously in the same exact bowl. So you've got one vibration by ringing the bowl, by dragging the mallet around the outside of the bowl, and then you've got something else vibrating in the bowl as well, or that's causing a secondary vibration. So in this case, the illness or the dis-ease that's being released from another person's body, I want you to think about that like a mallet. So it's coming up through the bowl at the same time that I'm actually ringing the bowl. So we've got 2, striking factors on the bowl. One, a geyser of energy leaving the person's body, coming through the bottom of the bowl, causing the bowl to vibrate at a certain rate. And then me with the actual mallet around the outside of the bowl. And when you have the release of that energy plus the outside ringing portion that I'm doing on the bowl, it creates a harmonic or an overtone, and it'll make the bowl whistle. So you'll be rolling on the bowl, and all of a sudden you'll hear the bowl it's like going, whoo. And then all of a sudden it goes, whoo. I mean, it just goes like way high. And that's because the harmonic that's created at that particular point in time is indicative of a release of the person who's having an issue. So for any healers out there who work with sound and you work with your Tibetan bowls, sometimes you could be ringing them and accidentally make a harmonic happen by the change in angle of your mallet. However, when you're working with a person and that bowl just all of a sudden changes tone or switches into a harmonic, it's indicative of a release of energies coming through the bowl or in the auric field, if that makes sense.
It does. This is so interesting because, as I said a few minutes ago, we have not really talked about what happens when we do healings.
No, we haven't.
So a lot of the times, or often when we are working on someone and you're ringing a bowl, I can feel the vibration through their body.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. As well as hear it with my ears.
Right.
So, and sometimes during those healings, I am called to, like, if you were ringing a bowl, say, on their solar plexus area, right? Right. And if I am called sometimes to put my hands underneath their body. And I have learned that I can pull that vibration through their body.
Right. Energetically pull.
Energetically, yeah. And like intensify it in certain parts of their body where
that's cool.
Yeah. But if what they're doing is releasing illness, then I have questions about why I'm being called to pull that vibration around their body.
You mean like when all of a sudden you're like down there, you're not sure why?
Yeah.
But that's why. Well, and this, okay, so here's what happens. Let me set this up a little better for people who might just be joining the podcast right now. We're talking about what happens when you have two healers come together. And Melissa and I are working on an individual right now who is struggling with the disease of cancer. And so, especially with the COVID timeframe, that's really tough. You have to make sure that everything's scrubbed down. Everybody's wearing masks. There's a lot of protocols you go through while you're working on this person. Make sure everybody's had their COVID tests and everybody's fine and safe. Yet in this healing process, where I facilitate healing, you facilitate healing, you hold a space for the healing. In other words, that's really what we're doing.
Yes.
We're holding spaces for that. So when I ring these bowls, I am drawn to place the bowls in certain patterns on people's bodies. And I can't even really tell you exactly why.
Right?
I don't know why. It's
know.
where the universe, the universal, hey, the bowl king of outer space, who even knows, wants me to put those bowls on someone.
Yes.
And I do know about sound. I mean, I am a sound engineer. I'm a music producer. I have a sound science background. So I understand wave patterns and I understand how they go through densities like the body. I get the science behind it. Yet for me, when I'm working on a person, no, I'm never going to use the same exact bowl pattern from one person to the next person to the next person.
Yes.
Just like you laying your hands on people, right?
Yes.
So when we are working together, and I'll give my take on it, and then I want to hear your take.
Okay.
When Melissa and I are working, and we really don't do much healing work together except for on this particular person. And we kind of gang up on this gal and say, hey, here we come. And she's very grateful. Well, one of the things that I like to do when I'm working with bowls on somebody, especially with another healer, is I was literally told, just do your thing. Because initially, I didn't want to get in the way of what you were doing, Melissa.
Yeah, that's true. And after having done this together a few times, it's weird. That's the most amazing part, I think, of working with another healer, especially maybe somebody that you understand pretty well.
Yeah, like especially somebody a friend. It's like, okay, whatever.
But I honestly think that during a healing, most of the time my eyes are closed. I open my eyes just to make sure I'm not going to bump into you sometimes.
Well, thank you for that. That's handy.
But honestly, we work like it's like one unit when we're working. We're moving around the person without even thinking about it. That's the thing about healing. You have to be confident enough to not think about it.
There you go. Yep.
And so just the things that happen where I'll look up, I'll be at a person's feet and I'll look up and you're at their head.
Yeah.
And I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. It's almost like, I don't want to sound goofy, but like this universal power or something is helping us and guiding us and showing us what to do when we're doing the healing.
And that's an important point in this, because when I speak to a lot of healers I know are worried that they're doing something incorrectly. And I tell a healer this all the time, all healers, I say, listen, get the prefrontal cortex, get the executive center of the brain out of the way.
Yeah.
And go into your limbic system. It's the center portion of the brain. It's the emotional. It's the feminine portion. Let that limbic, like if you were wearing a pair of headphones or a bandana on your head, it's that right over the top of your head area in your brain. It's the limbic system. So when people want to second guess stuff or they want to overthink it, it's not to say don't use your brain. Right? When you're being a healer, of course you want to use your brain. Oh my God. Engage, be there, be present. Yet it's also about just letting it flow. So when I'm working with Melissa, and I've worked with other healers, I've done healing work with other people. And
so have I.
Yeah. And and you get into that cycle where you're just kind of doing your thing. They're doing their thing, but it seems almost like a, shall we?
It's symbiotic.
Dance, blum, blum, blum. Yeah. And everybody's kind of doing their own thing around the person on the table. And it is symbiotic. And so one of the things that I think is so fascinating about this is the lack of discussion, which I think is healthy, before you work on somebody. It's not like we sit down and say, okay, Melissa, I'm going to do this and you do that. And I've actually known some healers who were really worried about how their healing aptitudes were going to be bounced off of another healer, or if they worked with somebody else, they were worried about the ego structure.
And maybe that depends on who you're working with. I don't know that I would want to do a healing with someone. It's got to be somebody that I understand and I trust, and I believe that what they're doing is beneficial. I mean, it would be impossible for me to work with a healer that I didn't believe in or I didn't trust.
That would be rough, man. That would be super rough. And what gets tough about that is if there is too much ego involved or a difficult person involved or any of that, then pretty much that person's presence of ego, of need, of all these things takes precedent over sharing that space for the healing. I have worked with healers before that were like, I am the main sound healer and you will fall behind me. And, I'm like, whatever, man. I'm just going to kind of fill in the cracks and do what I can.
Yeah.
But I don't go back to work with that person because at that person, they're too busy trying to pee a circle around their healing aptitudes. And it's gross. I mean, we're not here to be the best one. It's not a freaking competition. It's not the healing Olympics. My bowls are going to heal more than your Reiki.
Right.
And, and I'm sorry, but human beings coming out of this old masculine time frame, we have really been distorted. We've been twisted up. We've been brainwashed to believe that we have to be the best. And if you're doing this on the feet, then, I better go down and do it on the feet. Or if I'm doing this on the belly, then you need to get to the belly. That's silly. And if you're a person listening and you're someone who's still working through some of your own insecurity issues or ego issues or whatever, I would really encourage you to pick a good friend and do a healing together, because it will challenge your insecurity. It will challenge your ego. It will challenge you if you're in that space of not being sure if this is really what you should do or not. It'll challenge you all the way through to let go completely, not to compare yourself to your fellow healer, and to bring through solely what you're doing. And I've worked with other healers who don't move around. And Melissa, you do move. I move a lot. I'll move those bowls on somebody's chest, solar plexus. It's always a kind of a trip to put a Tibetan bowl on a woman. woman. And you're trying to wedge it between the girls on their heart chakra. And some ladies are pretty bosomy and they wear a tight bra. I've actually asked clients that are real bosomy before, women, if they wouldn't mind going to the bathroom and removing their bra. So the girls will fall to the side and I can get to their sternum.
Yeah.
I'm like, darling. And I had women look at me and say, absolutely not. And I'm like, well, honey, then I got to balance this under the boobs or on top of your boobs. And they're like, that's fine, but I'm not letting these horrors free.
Oh my God.
I will break your table. I'm like, geez, have some self-love, man. So, I mean, it's important to note that we can get triggered about insecurity. You and I don't, because, I mean, we're family and I know you. But, there's other people out there who could get triggered with insecurity or feel like what they're doing is not enough. And I have worked with healers that don't move. Like they either stay at the head or they stay on one side. And I'll just move around them. It doesn't matter. I don't care.
No.
So what advice would you have for somebody that goes in to do a healing, and maybe you have a personal story about this, maybe it's never happened to you, I don't know. But have you ever experienced like an insecurity working with somebody? Or if you haven't, do you have any advice to somebody who may go in and be really, really insecure about working with another healer? I mean, what advice would you give somebody?
Well, honestly, the first time that we're super good friends, but the first time that I worked with you, I might have been a little nervous because I hold you in such high esteem. I know you're a great healer. And I'm sure a lot of people would feel that way going to work with someone else. Like, oh my gosh, she's a better healer than me. Blah. That makes me nervous. And so, yeah, but the thing is, you and I our modalities are completely different.
Oh my God, yes.
And I think the effect of what we do might very well be completely different. And I think that with all healers, that's going to be the case. So, while you're working with sound, I'm working with energy, and the way I move energy in somebody is 100% different than the way anyone else does. The way the bowls work for you is 100% different than the way they work for anyone else. So really, we can't compare ourselves to anyone else.
Well, that's very true, and I think you nailed it. We cannot compare ourselves to anyone else. And this goes back to one of the big tenets of being a healer, which is humility, which is grace, which is allowance. We got to let a lot of this stuff just flow through us. And remember, you're not doing it to somebody. You're not healing somebody. You're allowing this healing to come through you. And by the way, that's very kind of what you said about, because I mean, honestly, I was worried, now that we're talking about this, I was worried about stepping on your toes with what you were going to do energetically, because sound rattles through everything. It rattles through the chi. It rattles through the nerves and the bones and the blood. And I thought, God, I hope this doesn't screw anything up. And the other thing that I'm doing when I'm ringing those bowls is I'm not just ringing the bowls. I am acting as a channel myself to bring through as much God light and universal light and healing light and love light as possible. So I am just this wide open radar dish for love and healing, just like you are.
Yes, yeah.
And I suck that all down through there and I let it come through my hands and my heart chakra. And as I'm wanding that bowl, that is the energy that's vibrating into that person in addition to the actual frequency. And I want to talk to you in just a second here about, you said the way I do it is different than other people. And I want you to describe what it feels like when you're working on someone, because this is going to be, it's probably different for everybody, like per person that you work on. But this is going to be, I think, instrumental for our listeners, because we have so many healers who are like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know if I'm feeling anything. I think we're expecting to see like Charlton Heston walk out of this cloud, that God split the sky and there's this, you are doing it correctly kind of moment. But for me, when I'm doing this work, I can feel it come through, and I also have a command of which frequencies hit the body in a different way. And I have Tibetan bowls that are in different tonalities, in different keys, right? And for anybody listening, the key of A attacks cancer like you wouldn't believe. And just a quick story, and then I want you to talk about, if you wouldn't mind, Melissa, talk about how you work with healing and how it works through you. And one of the things about being a healer is being open to signs and wonders before the healing takes place. And I'll use myself as a quick example. So I'm working on this individual who has cancer with you. And I was at a store here in Billings, Montana called Barjon's Books. And some of you listening may know this place because I've done a ton of outreach work at Barjon's over the many, many years. It's a place in Billings, Montana here with me in my hometown. And I went down there one day and I was searching for a new bowl to use in our healings, Melissa. And I'm looking for a bowl in A. Okay, now I have all these bowls, and some of them I've had for such a long time that I barely remember the key that they're in because I just get called to use certain bowls at certain times, which always seems to correspond with the illness that the person has later when I think about it. So I walk in and I see there's this bowl in A, and I thought, wow, this is great. And it was hand forged in Tibet under a new moon, this particular bowl. Now, that sounds kind of Harry Potter and kind of freaky deaky, but the bottom line is when you're talking about metallurgical arts, you're talking about metal conducts energy, and metal will remember the energy under which it was forged, which is why when you read about samurais and you read about like freaking, Lord of the Rings and any of these stories, you hear about these swords that were forged under the moonlight, or you hear about these swords that were forged under the anger of the blah. Metal remembers. Metal remembers. So this bowl was forged under the new moon, which is new beginnings, new affirmations, clean blank slate, do anything else. I get this bowl and I take it up to do the healing, and I'm called to put two particular bowls, my new bowl and this other bowl I've had for 200,000 years, onto the person we're healing. And I start ringing them, and they're both an A bowl. Apparently, they're both A's. And they're just barely detuned from one another, like by a quarter tone. And anybody who knows anything about music or sound, is you play something on a quarter tone apart, it creates a dissonance. And it's like one's on the top spectrum of A and one's on the bottom spectrum. It's like, I think A at 440 hertz and A at, 442 or 526 hertz or something. So two different tuning scales is what I'm saying. And at first I thought, God, this sounds like crap. And the person we're working on is a musician that we're doing this healing on. And all I can think of is, oh my God, I'm trying to do healing work on this woman, and she's going to be laying there going, what the hell? Tune your A-bowls, man. This sounds like ass. So I'm sitting here going, oh man. And so my prefrontal cortex, Melissa, starts getting involved. And I start overthinking it, and I start thinking, oh my God, this is dissonant. This sounds like crap. And this overwhelming outside voice, that's what these angels always sound like to me, kind of came around and basically said, just ring them, because the dissonance is creating a harmonic or a vibration that the cancer can't get away from. It's versions of A, but they're so close together. I mean, and dissonance creates a harmonic. It's not super pleasant to the ear, but it creates a third vibration, which will vibrate the heck out of anything. So then I really figured out what was going on. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like double sound nuking this cancer. I get it. And I'm ringing those bowls, my A bowls like crazy. But I remember talking about it with the client afterwards, and she was like, yeah, I totally was like, ooh, that's out of tune. She goes, but it felt amazing. She goes, I could feel it. I could feel it killing that cancer in my body. So you just got to go with your gut. You can't be insecure with yourself. You got to give it up. The messages and signs and wonders begin coming to you before you get to that healing.
Yeah, that's very much true.
Way before. So Melissa, so here I'm talking about this process for me. What does it feel like to you when you're running energy? How do you know you're, quote, doing it right?
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, again, every session is different. I mean, we've worked on this person together several times, and even with this person, every session is different. So sometimes it's very physical. The person might tell us, that a certain part of their body hurts, and that becomes a very physical thing. But sometimes it's very, very emotional and energetic.
Right.
and about the chakras and releases and smooth energy flowing through the body. So really, sometimes with that, I don't know until I get there, until we actually begin healing what I'm supposed to be doing.
What does it feel like for you, though? Like what
does it
can
feel
you
like?
Do you feel it in your body? Do you hit like a meditative state?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you know the mojo's rolling?
Yeah, I honestly just assume the mojo is always rolling.
Awesome.
But I do get in a meditative state. And so sometimes for me, sometimes I just like let myself know where to go. Sometimes I don't hear voices. Like I don't actually hear a greater being speak to me, but I just like, I understand what they're saying, even though I don't hear it.
Well, one of your giant gifts is the gift of empathy, and you're feeling that communication probably on a cellular level, which I think most of us can relate with.
And then sometimes during that, I'll see people's past lives. And that's pretty interesting because it always relates to the healing. For instance, one time I was working on someone and I just saw this little girl that was running and she was afraid. And when we discussed it afterwards, she said, "Oh my God, that makes so much sense because I always feel like I'm running away."
Oh my God.
And just like being able to bring that to the surface is part of the healing too.
Yeah.
But it is very much, I think that's part of healing is it's getting out of your prefrontal cortex and allowing yourself to become I'm there. I totally see what's going on. I know, but it's almost this trance-like state where you are just so open to letting messages come through, past life stuff, what I'm supposed to be doing. Because sometimes it's very much energy. I'm moving energy through the body. Sometimes it's honestly it's affirmations that are in my head.
Okay, now explain that. So because everybody who does Reiki, they can relate with pulling the energy through your body, whatever. Affirmations.
So affirmations will be, and it's usually connected to a chakra thing, but it'll just be like, I know that this person needs trust in their body, or I know that their baby heart is sad and they need more love in their heart, or something like that, or confidence, or they need to be able to speak their voice. And so then I will just focus for a long time on that and putting that affirmation into their body.
So, and I think this is important. I really feel this is an important point. It can be as simple as an energetic or conscious affirmation that you receive and that you transmit to another person. People, are we hearing this? Because I can't tell you, girl, how many healers come to me as clients and they'll just be, physical tears saying, I can't tell if this is working or not because it just feels like I'm not really doing much, or I'll have these things come into my head, these like platitudes almost about, love your neighbor or whatever. And all I can do is think, oh my God, I'm losing it. And I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm quoting Bible verses in my head. And yet what you're saying is that may be what is needed. And would you say that there is an energy with those words or something?
I think that when we're doing healing, our main energy is always love energy.
Or it should be.
Yeah, or it should be. Yeah. And just that stuff is just, I think that the things, if you're doing a healing, you need to pay, just the things that pop into your head are the things that are supposed to be there.
This is important. Listen. Okay, go. Everybody listening? Go, Melissa. The things that are there should be there.
So don't fight it. It's not your imagination. It's not something that shouldn't be there. It's a message for you to use in your healing.
Right.
So, and all of it matters. All of it's important. And that's the best part of becoming a sort of practiced, confident healer, is that it's so much easier the more you do it, the easier it is to hear what you're supposed to be doing. The easier it is to hear the message. see, for me, see the past life, see sometimes it's not a word, we talked about trust and love and blah. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's sunshine. Sometimes for me, it's a water.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand here. So you're working on somebody and you get this energy and this feeling of sunshine or this energy and this feeling of water. Do you ever get an image of it, or is it how it feels, or sometimes all of the above?
I don't think that I actually maybe I get an image. Gosh, it's so buried inside my head that I'm not even sure if it's not like a photograph.
That's cool.
But it's sometimes, I think that one of the things that maybe makes me a little different is that my healing is very much focused with earth energy. I don't know if I don't know what everyone else is like. Maybe everybody does that. I don't know.
I don't. But that would not be me.
I'm so much an earth energy person that a lot of times the healing, not always, but the healing comes from an earth element, right? Like sunshine, or for me, I have one client that I use a lot of the earth elements on. And
now, when you say use earth elements, do you mean you actually have a crystal in your hand that you're working on with them, or a packet of dirt? You mean you're working energetically with those earth?
Yeah.
Okay.
And even when I have remote healings over the phone, I use the same. It's the same.
So you do remote healings. Mm-hmm. You do remote healings.
Yes.
Okay, so you got somebody on the phone. You're pulling this energy of the earth, whether it's water or earth or sunshine and earth of some kind.
Sometimes it's a particular plant. Yeah.
Okay, that is like Marvel superhero stuff. You're pulling plant energies?
And it's more like it comes through my body. Like I can feel it coming through my feet, through my body, and out of my hands.
Oh,
sometimes they just need, sometimes water plays a big part in like washing things away for me. So sometimes I'll just see water and I'll be at their feet, and I'll just have the water will be washing things away off of their body, over their feet.
Wow. I'm sorry, I'm looking at you really weirdly right now, because all I can see when you said all this energy comes up, all I can see is Groot. As Groot. I am Groot.
It is sort of like that.
Well, because, I just think of this little thing, although there's nothing little about the energy that you have when you're a healer, yet it's this energy that comes up through you, like through just the tendrils that would go into the earth. And so, like roots. So what I think is interesting about this is you're talking about how the healing comes to you and you use the earth elements, even different mojo of different plants. And that actually goes back to some serious, I don't know, you probably know this if you don't, that goes back to some serious shamanistic practices or Native American practices or indigenous peoples practices all over the world. The indigenous shaman back in Norway, of the old Viking days, they would get in there and embody the spirit of the animal that they were sacrificing. They would embody the spirit of the tree that they were breathing in, or juniper that they were breathing, to give a message to someone as an oracle. So you're using a practice that I've heard about a million times. It's not a practice that even is remotely in my wheelhouse. However, it's what the ancient shaman and the ancient spirit people and medicine people would do.
Well, I think it's sort of like I used the word tools earlier.
Sure.
Like those are my tools. They're not physical things, but everything has an energy, right? The water has an energy. Every plant has an energy, different things. And I'm just using that energy, just like you are using the sound energy of the bowls to heal. I don't think it's that much different. And I think maybe that's why it's so easy for us to work together, because we're pulling energies from completely different places when we're doing the healing.
Well, and that's an interesting point. When I'm working with you doing healing work, I pull from this. I pull from the universe.
Yes.
I pull from the top.
Yes.
I am out there in outer space, going way out there into nebulas and stars and pulling this incredible energy that's just not even touched by human beings.
Yes.
I am pulling that down through me, and then I'm putting it through the bowls.
Yes.
And so, really, if if we were to talk from a scientific perspective, neither one of us in this perception scientifically are crossing beams, Ray. Think about, remember, Ray, don't cross beams from Ghostbusters. Don't cross the beams because it would explode everything. We're not crossing beams because you're so anchored in your work and I'm so top heavy. Not that I think it would be an issue. I've done healing work with another gal who's a Reiki person and she's so top chakra. She works with off-worlders and all kinds of beings. And we didn't cross beams either, Ray. So I'm such a nerd who likes Ghostbusters. Put your hands in the air. Yes. So I think that's something I've never thought about.
Yeah, and that's not to say that, just like you said, if you are using similar energies, you can't be great healers together. But for just talking about what we do, I think we magnificently balance what the other person's doing.
And I think that's accidental, but is there ever really an accident in the universe? Never. So, I mean, we look at this dynamic of healers being afraid to ask other healers to work with them, or they're afraid somebody's ego is going to get in the way. They're afraid they're doing something that is going to get in the way of that person. And we've never, ever, gang, listening right now, we've never had a discussion ever, Melissa and I, about working together as healers. This is the first time we really sat down and talked about, what's this feel like for you? Because this is what's going on with me. Yeah. I mean, we might talk a little bit like, wow, did you get this? I got this.
Yes, we'll compare sort of psychic notes and stuff like that. Yeah,
but process-wise, and really when you do look at the scientific data and everything, it's fascinating how one person who's getting worked on can have energies that come from such different places. Yet if you think about it, we're beings that are obviously, we're made from the mud. We come from the ground. We also come from the stars. So when you do work with another person, if you're a healer listening and you're worried if you're going to cross streams, right, like Ghostbusters, it is unlikely that you will be matched in the universe or by the universe with a healer that's not going to be commensurate with your abilities. And, you might try something with a really good friend and maybe it just doesn't jam. Or you might try something with somebody you just met and maybe it doesn't jam. Yet most people I know, when they do healings with others, get into this unspoken groove. Like I said, the only healers I've ever worked with who were gnarly really just had a hard time playing well with others in general in their life. Other ego-y psychics, and unfortunately you see that in this field.
I think the ultimate goal, too, is honestly to assist the person, the client, in their healing. So if you're busy dwelling on being competitive or one person being better than the other, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah, this may not be the right field for a person
and when I see,
trying to be the alpha.
No. What you do fantastically.
Thank you.
So yay. How excited I am to work with a great healer.
Well, back at you. I can't do what you do. I can't go and be a tree or whatever, or a root or a Groot. I mean, that's not going to happen over here. It's not happening.
That's so funny. But I think that no matter who you're working with, if you can find joy in their success, because
Bingo.
Because the success is we're healing this person that's laying on the table that we really care about.
Yes.
So, yay! If you have a better day at that healing than I do, great.
Okay, can I put a pin in that? 'Cause I right there. Yes, or not even put a pin. I'm taking the pin out. Can I jump on your thought?
Go.
That's really what I meant to say. You're exactly right. I have days when I'd be like, oh God, I hope I'm up to snuff. I hope I can do this. I clear myself out of the way. I bring the bowls forward. I cleanse out the bowls energetically. And honest to God, Melissa, if you're having a way better day and you're rocking it, I will hold the space I can hold to the very best of my ability. But again, it's not the Healer Olympics. Okay.
Right, exactly.
This is not a competition.
No.
And I'm grateful if you're having a better day than I am as a healer.
And if I can stand there, even if I do nothing but hold space for you while you're working, I am facilitating an amazing thing, and that makes me a great healer.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And do you hear, gang, how simple this is? Are you hearing the simplicity of the heart that's coming out here? You know, I really feel that as we are coming through this feminine time frame and coming out of the masculine time frame, I really feel that it's important that this message that you're giving everyone right now, Melissa, about just feeling confident, yet, hey, it's no big thing. If all I'm doing is here to witness this or hold a space, I'm doing 100% of what I'm supposed to be doing. There is a participation that has zero to do with outcome in what you're describing. And it is the ultimate exercise in being present with the person and holding a space with that person and the other person you're healing with for a greater, a greater opportunity for healing than if I just showed up or you showed up or that person showed up.
Yeah, don't you think that, and correct me if you don't think this is true, but by having two of us working together, it's magnified by way more than two. The healing is, the energy, the healing is way bigger than the two of us together.
Well, and that right there, I'm glad you brought that up because that is actually an exponential principle that is laid out there. I want people to think of earthquakes. Think of an earthquake, okay? If it is a point, if it's a 2 on the Richter scale, and then it's a 4 on the Richter scale, it's not, the 4 is not twice as hard as the 2. It is exponentially way harder. It's like compounded interest, you know, it gets way harder. So when we're talking about healing, we look in the Bible. The Christian Bible has, you know, I believe it was Jesus who said, where 2 or more are gathered, I am there, or God is there.
Yeah.
And there are physics to that. And the physics are that the human body is an electromagnetic semiconductor. The 2 electromagnetic organs in the body are the brain and the heart. Our chakral system is an electromagnetic rivet system that holds the spirit into the flesh. Our bodies are made to be giant magnets of energy. They're about like 68, 70% water if you're well hydrated. Same salinity as salt water. Salt water is the largest conductive surface on the planet of the Earth of electromagnetic energy and other energies. So, what does that mean? It means that we are literally walking super antennas. And think about a planar array. A planar array, PLANAR, is a grouping of telescope dishes, like radar dishes. And they make a telescope. And so, like, if you think about the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, right? And all of those radar dishes are sitting out in the desert and they all turn at one time and they make one telescope. They're all listening in one direction. So when I come together as a healer with Melissa, and maybe we bring in Joe Blow and Jane Doe, and here we all are, each one of us create a planar array or a relay for receiving and sending electromagnetic and other types of energy that we're not even able to measure. We're bringing through that healing energy or that wellness energy, that miracle energy through the quantum field, through a multiple person, we'll call it a planar array, all pulling in one energy that is distributed amongst, say, 4 antennae or people, each antenna or person hearing differently, contributing to the overall signal of the telescope differently to make a great big wide-angle lens. So that's actually how that works.
That's so interesting because it brings me back to the way that we physically move when we're working together. You talk about a planar array and how the dishes turn the same. And we're not moving in the same direction, but it's definitely a complementary direction where, like, I would say that we don't make eye contact at all. Maybe briefly once or twice until the very end.
And you know what's funny about the very end? You're exactly right. At the very end, I'll get this little flick on my forehead or in my crown chakra or third eye. It's like, hey, sister, you're all done. You're all done. And then I'll look up, and right as I'm looking up at you, you're getting that same flick. And you're looking at me, and we don't say anything, but it's kind of like, oh, yeah, we just got the time out, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then we're done.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure it works the same way with a larger group, too, if everyone is really in the zone, working from the part of the brain that's called the
limbic system.
Yeah.
Then limbic is tied to the heart chakra.
Then I think that everybody would be moving kind of not in unison, but in a complementary way.
Now, you've done other healing work with other healers. Have you worked in great big groups like that?
A little bit. Not much. It's great big groups for me are more difficult.
And why would you say that is?
Probably because I haven't practiced it enough. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. It's harder for me to get into the limbic system when there's a great big group, and because I'm such a big empath, it's really hard for me in a big group of healers to focus on the messages that I'm getting. It just takes more energy, which is worth it if the effect is bigger.
So in other words, do you find that it could be more difficult for you personally, and maybe just because it's a lack of doing it more often, separating out your own receiving message than the group's receiving message?
Yes. Okay. And actually, the more I think about that, the more I think it's probably just practice, because everybody should pretty much be getting the same message anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm laughing because, I at one time in Los Angeles, when I was living there a million years ago, I was working with some healers, and we were working, it was actually on a TV show pilot that didn't end up taking off. And we were trying to work on this little child who had an illness. So we were all working on it. And one of the healers, she was a very alpha personality. And she was so she had to make sure that she got to the kid first. And she had to make sure that her hands were on the kid's head. And she would literally try to direct me and this other fella that were trying to work on this young man. And I remember thinking, okay, this probably isn't going to be as effective for this kid. However, it was very important for this woman. I perceived that it was important for her to look like the head healer on television, right? So she'd have her hands on the kid's head, and then she would say to me, I'm getting that you need to put the bowl by his feet, or, so-and-so. He was an acupressurist. I'm feeling that you need to work on this nerve. And it was very important that she was seen as the person who called all the shots. And I remember initially, and I was probably a good 13 years younger than I am now. And I remember initially being really irritated that she was taking that opportunity to look like the hotshot.
Yeah.
Because I thought, girlfriend, what are you doing, man? We're here to help this little boy with this leukemia. And you're worried about looking like you're the great healer directing everybody. You're kind of slowing the show down here, And I found myself in the healing process really needing to step outside of my irritation. And it wasn't that I felt like she was making me look stupid or anything like that, or I didn't care, It was that I was bummed out. That I was looking forward to working with this individual. I had heard so many phenomenal things about this person, and I was really looking forward to working with her. And she just went a very weird way once that camera started rolling. And so for me, when you talk about being in a group, right? That's what I'm trying to draw a parallel to. So I had to really pull my energy field in and just go kind of low. How low can you go? And kind of under the fence with this young man. And I hooked up with the other fella. I was able to Bluetooth with him, and we kind of didn't say it, but we were both kind of just doing our own thing. And she stepped out of the energy entirely. And maybe she was doing something in her own way, for sure. Yet because it was more about the pageantry or the display, I could literally feel her offline in that healing circle. Like there was me, there was this young man, there was this guy, and this lady was just kind of there, just kind of doing her thing, And it was weird. And I'm sure it probably made for an interesting segment in the pilot.
Right.
Because it looks like, ooh, what is this? Like psychic surgery with the head surgeon? What are we doing? But I remember thinking, man, I really hoped that young man, I'm sure he got something from it.
Sure.
But can you imagine what it would have been like had everybody's priority been the child?
And also, I think if I had been in that situation, it would have taken that much extra energy on my part to sort of it takes a minute to figure out how to work around.
That's what I was doing.
And so it's kind of healing energy. It's your energy that's wasted trying to solve a problem when you could actually be helping the person. So I think maybe that's why when sometimes in big healing group healing situations, I walk away and just am like exhausted at the end. I don't know. Either that or it's me trying to work around my own situation.
Well, and it could be if you are somebody who has roots into the ground and you are pulling from everything, then you also might be, I don't know if this is true, yet you might be pulling in little bits and pieces of everybody else's energy in addition to what you're doing. I think you probably know your energy well enough to not be like a fan. Yeah. A fan can't determine what particles of air it's pulling in through the back of it. It's just sucking everything through.
And that's probably just a practice thing too.
I would think.
Yeah.
I would think. Or you find where your frequency is. You're really good about your own frequency. Mm-hmm. That's probably why it's very easy for us to work together, because I'm not even at all.
No, and I'm not in yours.
Yeah. I'm way up here. I'm like, what you doing? This is fabulous. Okay. So as you can tell, and obviously we wanted to have this conversation because for listeners, to be able to not only hear my process of how I go through it, your process of how you go through it. I don't do a lot of healing work. I do selective healing work, and I do it on people who are terminal or have zero chance of anything, or when I get a chance to do it. And the other reason is I don't have a lot of time, and a lot of my work that I'm just called to do on a core level is translate energies, is to speak on or speak through things. And the healing work is a completely different type of channeling, and I really enjoy it. And I've noticed when I've had the opportunity to participate in it, that energy that comes through, it does its own work in people.
Yeah.
And people are like, hey, that rock on, this is great. Yet you do healing work way more than I do. I mean, really, if I'm going to do healing work, I used to do Tibetan bowl healing on people all the time. And I've found that as I've gotten busier, like with Road Angel and with the podcasts and with this translational stuff and with writing, it's almost like I don't have quite as big of a tank, maybe, is the way I'd put it to you, to be able to draw all the healing energy plus all this other energy. And it's kind of weird, at least the way I'm wired. So I tend to, I don't want to say reserve it, but I just tend to get called specifically to certain people.
And you can only do so many things, too.
Well,
I mean, there's
that.
only like so much time in a day, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah. And I think the other point about bringing this forward today was sort of a universal message about us learning to work with each other in this new time frame. And the power of people working together. Clearly, I have a little bit more to learn about working in larger groups, but I think like it's an important message as we're going through, especially now in the world, what we're going through and stuff. That to put down our egos and learn to work together for the greater good. And this is like a microcosm of that.
Absolutely, it is. Amen. And I'm wrapping this podcast up on that thought. That was excellent. Melissa, where can people find you?
You can find me, my website is vintageapothecaryshop.com. And my phone number is 406-850-3287. And you can make an appointment either of those ways with me. You can also find me on Facebook, which is Vintage Apothecary, and Instagram, which is Vintage Apothecary _ Melissa Scianna, I think.
That is your Instagram. That's your
you.
Insta. Yeah. And just as a recap for people, Melissa does distance healing work, distance energy work. And actually, a client that I have has worked with you not only through herbal stuff, but if I'm not mistaken, you also worked with her through energy work. And that helped her exponentially with both the herbal applications. And today we're talking about energy healings, yet it's important to note too, all plants, all matter, all water, all air, as you've been hearing Melissa speak about using those energies, they all do have an energy as well. And I would highly encourage anybody who is looking for wellness alternatives and just getting healthy to actually give a shot to Mother Nature. And you might want to give Melissa a call. And I'm not just saying that because you're my sister-in-law. I have watched you make teas for people who struggled so dramatically with emotional issues, with psychological issues, with physical issues. And somehow, again, so not my aptitude, you wing-ding together what looks to me like a bunch of leaves. I have no idea. Yet the properties of that thing dramatically heal people. And I have known people that you have worked on who have also come back to me and said, oh my God, the combination of the energy work and the energy that she puts together in the plants is really powerful. So, Mother Nature gives us a lot to work with. And if you're somebody struggling, reach out to Melissa and see that, she might be able to give you some assistance in a way that somebody like myself, who is all about that top section of translation in the universe and bringing through messaging, we all of our aptitudes run out at a certain point. And I had somebody ask me the other day on the phone, they're like, would you recommend an oil to me? I'm like, well, I got these angels talking about 2 of them. And then there's a bunch of chemistry here that I don't understand. So here's the name of about 2 herbalists I know that can help you with that,
Right.
Because we aren't all meant to do exactly the same thing, and leaning on each other is the way to go.
Yeah, that's so true. So true.
So you guys and gals and humans, as we go forward into this feminine time frame, remember to trust yourself, trust the healing that is innate to you, and whatever the universe is asking you to do, especially if you're being called into the healing field, maybe start with a buddy and you guys can work on it together, and you can have your own version of this conversation that Melissa and I are having for the very first time.
Right.
Even after doing healing work for a couple of years together, this is the first time we've talked about this.
Yes.
So we would like to wish you a fabulous November.
Yes, have a great November, and thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Melissa, and I will see you next podcast.